In this session, we have a keynote that will be presented on the topic of Future of Education NEP20. And to present this keynote, I'm more than happy to welcome our keynote speaker, Miss Anita Karwal, who's an Indian administrator. She's the Secretary, School Education and Literacy, Government of India, and she's also an Indian Administrative Service Officer of the Gujarat cadre, who joined as the CBSE chairperson August 31, 2017. She belonged to the 1988 IS batch. I once again welcome Ms. Anita Karwal. Ma'am, over to you for your keynote speech.
Thank you very much. And I must congratulate the organizers of this, this discussion group. I was listening to the previous speakers and I was really fascinated by the talk given by Dr. Pant. And I caught only the end of it, but I think I'm going to take off from there. I'll just share my screen because I have a small presentation. Is this visible? Okay.
Yes.
Second, I'm just putting it on slideshow. Is this all right? Is it visible? Could somebody just tell me, because I cannot see you, so you have to tell me.
Yes, madam. Yes, it is visible.
Thank you. So as I said, I'm going to take off from where Dr. Pant left, and also where the previous speaker from Cyber Peace left. Two things. One, the world of internet is highly fascinating, and yet there is a lot of danger lurking around. And two, it is not as if online education can replace face-to-face education. So with these two starting points, let me take you through the National Education Policy and what we are up to in the Government of India. I thought I'll just put these figures right in the beginning so that we keep it in our mind as I go through the entire presentation. Here we are looking at a country which is equal to several countries. The population of the students itself in India is larger than the population of all countries in the world except China, USA, and Indonesia. So we are talking about several countries here. The population of teachers, as you can see, is about 94 lakhs. And the number of schools that we are looking at in India is about 15.5 lakhs. Now, the National Education Policy has several principles around which it is woven. But the principle of equitable and vibrant knowledge society, the principle of developing a deep sense of respect for our constitutional values and fundamental rights and duties, etc. And the third principle of values and dispositions that support a commitment to human rights. So as I heard the last two speakers, I realized that these are the principles around which the last two speakers were speaking, and this is exactly what is reflected in the NEP. And also the NEP is emphasizing on access of digital education to every child, equity, whatever is available to one child should be available to the next child, capability, quality, and outcomes. Now, this is in gist, there are two slides on what the National Education Policy talks about in terms of inculcating and promoting digital innovations. One, it talks about content creation. So this is not only content creation for learning, but also for teaching. There should be a repository and there should be a system for dissemination. And of course, it does give a lot of examples and gives a lot of pointers towards the way forward. The second thing it talks about is addressing the digital divide. And the third thing is training of teachers. As some of you were mentioning, capacity building of teachers is one of the most important ingredients that goes into the promotion of digital education. And the pandemic has shown us the metal that the teachers are really made of. The fourth thing it talks about is promoting digital learning by encouraging the blended mode of learning. This is something very new to India, very new to our teachers, very new to our school education system. The fifth thing is about laying down standards. I'll come to that a little later. And somebody mentioned about coding. So there is a very, very important recommendation of the policy that if we want our children to develop their mathematical and computational thinking, then coding should be integrated into the mathematics curriculum of the child from a very early age, preferably from the middle school stage, which means from classes 6 onwards. And lastly, there are special areas also for online learning. I have only mentioned very few here. The most important one is the one I just spoke about, that is disabled children, and second is for gifted children. Of course, there are other areas also which is mentioned in the policy. I'm trying to be brief here and contain my talk within the time period given to me. Now let us look at what has been happening in India on content creation digital repository, particularly from the central government point of view. Now, to implement these policies, what is really required is a digital innovation that can work at the scale and diversity and the complexity provided by languages, remoteness, etc., for all the students and all the teachers of India. So as you can see in this diagram, what we are saying is that what is required is actually a federated structure, which should be highly scalable, highly flexible, and which can be monitored and which is able to emit data, which we are able to use for planning and governance purposes. We also need a plug-and-play digital infrastructure because all states do not have similar capacities. And also all states do not want the same solution. So there has to be unique solutions and there have to be provision for that kind of flexibility. So what we were really looking at is learning services, collaboration, content, credentialing, telemetry, measurement, registry, and language. And this should be able to cater to the parent, teacher, student, community, administrator, which is our stakeholders. It should be able to give learning repositories, to be able to give, to help children to learn through online direct education and to manage the learning process. And the interactions that would be required are also at the learning level between teacher and students, but there is also the administration which would need to interact with the system. So Diksha was our solution for this. Diksha stands for Digital Infrastructure for Knowledge Sharing. Of course, we started it in 2017, somewhere around September. But until the pandemic actually struck us, we were taking it up in a very systematic fashion, and states were not onboarding so easily. As of today, the entire country, all states have onboarded Diksha in a federated structure, and they have, each of them have their own verticals. The NCERT, CBSE, and iOS also have their own verticals. And they all have their own e-content. And as you can see the figures here, these figures are from 1st of April to 17th of January. This is the kind of usage that Diksha has seen, the kind of page hits. And on the right side at the bottom, you can see that so far we have about 33 languages in which there is e-content on this. Now, this phenomenal rise that happened during this period of the pandemic, as you can see here, the learning sessions crossed 1 billion, and the average daily page hits also, as you can see, the journey out here. This has led to unique and diverse use cases. I'll talk about each one of them. The Energize textbooks are our most popular use case. We have online courses for teachers and for students. We have question bank tools. We have content and sourcing and authoring tools. And these have been used right from the beginning. We have other things like chatbots, etc. Now, the content which you find right now on Diksha is of this kind, what you can see on the left, and more than 1.5 lakh pieces of content. This is not just created by the center. This is created by individuals, organizations, governments, bodies, CSOs, etc. More than 15,000 such organizations and individuals have contributed. And the journey has been quickened only because of the pandemic. And this content includes content for children with special needs. We have a whole lot of content for children who are hearing impaired, and also for children who are visually impaired in the DAISY format. So this content can actually be accessed across multiple devices. This content, of course, is available online, and it is available across all digital modes. It is also available offline. Whenever a child sort of has the app and wants to see some content, whenever the child is near Wi-Fi, it takes about 2 minutes to download the entire content of, say, mathematics for class 6, and then it is available offline for the child. And therefore, unlike other systems where you have to be continuously online to watch a content, this is very easily accessible. The system that is followed here is a very decentralized system. The system of content contribution by states is such that the states are responsible for curating their content and certifying it and putting it on Diksha. Each of the states have their own PMUs, and they review the content, and the quality of content, the responsibility lies with the states. During the pandemic, the most used, as I mentioned, was energized textbooks, which I will just show you what it is. Also, Vidya Dan, this was something very interesting. What we did was we created a portal inside Diksha where we requested the country, individuals and organizations to contribute, to donate, or to do dan of e-content. I will show you the figures. And this is done in a very systematic fashion. So states will say, we want content in this language for this class, for this subject, for this topic. And the dan is then put in that box. And then there is a system of online curation by series of experts. And only after it is curated and found all right, it is dropped into the final box of Diksha. We also use this time to promote joyful learning. So a lot of quizzes on joyful mathematics in particular, and also on various areas like junk food, etc., was done through this portal. And PME Vidya was launched in May. I will just come to that. And we have used this platform hugely for teacher training, and I'll come to that too. Just 1 second, sorry. I pressed the wrong button, sorry, I'll just go back. Yeah. So now addressing the digital divide and equity, this is the second component of the national education policy. Energized textbooks is something that we initiated in the year 2018, but it caught up only during the pandemic. As you can see on the left, so all our textbooks which are prescribed by NCERT or SCERT, in all the 35 states and UTs that are onboarded, except one state, all are onboarded. Precisely at the hard spots and the beginning of the chapters, there are these QR codes printed on these books. And behind the QR code is e-content, which is tagged and which is loaded on Diksha. And the child has anytime, anywhere access to e-content while reading the textbook. This year, excuse me, after the pandemic struck, 60 crore such textbooks have been printed and distributed in the country. And this has been our biggest, let us say, contribution to ensuring that children are able to get access to e-content. Now, this is another, I'm just trying to show you that in different languages, there is QR coded textbooks, which is available to the child by simply reading through a barcode or by downloading the app. Also, the content is available in so many languages. Here is a word cloud. And as you can see, we have not limited ourselves to the languages in the schedule of the Constitution. How we also have local language, particularly in line with the recommendation of the NEP to teach in the mother tongue. So you can see Gondi, Datewada, you can see Bundelkhandi out here, and also other languages like Bhojpuri, Sargujiya, etc. And we have content in all of these. With regard to teacher training, it was decided that face-to-face training will not be possible, and building capacities of teachers was really crucial in this period. So we firstly encouraged the states to have their own bite-sized videos or larger modules for teachers. Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh came forward, and Madhya Pradesh teachers. Meanwhile, we had initiated the Nishtha teacher training program, in the country, which was going on face-to-face pre-pandemic, we decided to convert it into a completely 100% online program with 18 modules, which related to classroom processes, some generic concerns like health and hygiene, curriculum, integrating gender, etc., and subject-specific pedagogies, and some systemic concerns, including related to COVID. These modules were launched in October, and this is what has happened so far. So these are 18 modules. We plan to complete them in 3 months, that is by the end of this month or beginning of February. 25 lakh teachers were left to be trained. They have all onboarded, and they are being trained at 5% of the cost and 4 times the speed. The teachers also, we have trained them to become content developers. So we have trained them in all the states to do storyboarding and then carry on to become content developers for Diksha. So these are just some photographs from the content development process. To promote digital learning, as I mentioned earlier, the PME Vidya program was announced as a part of the entire Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative of the Government of India. This was announced on 17th of May. It consisted of not only PM Vidya, but also 3 other programs, that is Manu Darpan National Curriculum and FLN. However, in PME Vidya, the focus was on that there should be one nation, one digital education platform, and that would be Diksha. 2, there should be one class, one TV channel through Swayam Prabha. 3, that open school must get enough content for its students through MOOCs courses on Swayam. 4, that radio, community radio podcast must be encouraged. 5, that for NEET and JEE preparation, children must get online access. And 6, digital education must be available for the differently abled as well. Why I put the things at the bottom, which actually, because they are related to PME Vidya. Manu Darpan focuses around providing not only a lot of content on our webpage for people who would like to look at content for mental health and well-being, but it also has a toll-free national telecounseling helpline for students across the nation. It is highly popular. Our counselors are volunteers, and they are actually counseling students for hours together. So sometimes we hear of counselors talking to one student for 5 to 6 hours a day, and the students get repeated. They call up again and again. The national curricular framework, which is to be developed by us through NCERT, is also a part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat push, where ICT would be integrated across grades in the curricular framework. The foundational literacy and numeracy mission is going to be launched in March, and it will depend to a great extent on criterion referenced item banks, which would be available on Diksha. So under the PME Vidya, what we did was we have started a sub-project which is called Coherent Access. In Coherent Access, we are ensuring that whatever is available on Diksha should be available on Swayam Prabha television, one class, one TV channel. And the same content must come on radio and podcast, so that children who do not have access to internet, but have access This is how it is done. What you see on the right side is the Diksha through internet when you go onto the portal of Diksha. And what you see on the left is what is being viewed on the television. Now on the television, what you see at the right corner is a QR code. So if a child doesn't want to watch it on television and has internet facility, the child can simply scan the QR code on the television and watch this program later through the offline mode on their telephone. Similarly, what you see on the Diksha, there is you can see everything that has come on television on Diksha as well. So with radio, the coherence has been initiated. It will take a bit of time. We are still doing, we have just completed coherence with television. During this pandemic, multiple use cases became the norm. For example, in Gujarat, I'm just giving a few examples. In Gujarat, the data measurement and monitoring and improvement framework was developed. How are children learning? Are they learning at all? Are they achieving their learning outcomes? What is happening? So in Gujarat, what they did was against each learning outcome, the children have criterion reference testing. They are called PAT or performance assessment tests. So for example, this is the result of mathematics and this is the result of Gujarati language. What Diksha helps them do is not only are they able to easily make these entries school-wise, they are also, for the purpose of the administrators, they are able to look at it state-wise. You know, where you see the greens, the teacher are doing above average performance. Where you see dark reds, children are not performing very well. So on the left is Gujarati and the right is mathematics. So this kind of planning, the kind of remediation which is required for teaching the children, the remediation required for teacher capacity, etc., is, it is possible for the state level to plan from here. We have also conducted a variety of assessments, as I mentioned, a variety of quizzes. There is something very interesting we have started just prior to the pandemic, and it is called 5 questions a week. These are competency-based questions, and they are meant for any child studying in classes 7 to 10. These questions are based on real-life situations. So any topic is picked up from the curriculum, and it is related to a real-life situation, and the question is placed there. These are not very easy for children who are used to do rote learning. So we are trying to promote a different mindset here, where skills and competencies come to the fore and they are given more importance. Also, as I mentioned about Vidya Dan. So Vidya Dan, during the pandemic, we have seen a contribution of 38,000 pieces of e-content to 14 states in different languages. Out of these, post-curation, now we have been able to upload 29,000 onto Diksha. So this is a kind of stakeholder and community support that we have been getting for e-education. Now, these aspects of the NEP are a work in progress. Laying down standards is something which we have initiated in the month of October. You may have heard the Honorable Prime Minister announcing the National Digital Architecture for Health from the Red Fort on the 15th of August. Similar work has been initiated in school education, the National Digital Architecture for School Education, wherein we are wanting to have a standardized architecture where the blueprint will take care of everything from e-learning to e-planning to e-governance to all areas related to school education and administration. This blueprint should be out by March, April this year, and then the work on the architecture will begin thereafter. Diksha is considered to be the base for this architecture because the technology is highly artificial intelligence-based, scalable, and highly futuristic. Then we are also looking at mathematical and computational thinking through changes in the national curricular framework. The new national curricular framework based on the new education policy will soon be initiated. However, the groundwork or the research which goes into it has already been initiated. We hope to have a new national curricular framework for school education and preschool education by next year. And then based on that, the syllabus will be prepared and the textbooks will be prepared. And the process of, as I mentioned, things like coding, using puzzles, electronic games, boards, etc., would then be incorporated. You may be aware that we have started the process of, picking on the imagination of the child through things like Toykathon, which has recently been announced. And I was just looking at the figures, and we have more than 50,000 participants registered with more than, I think, 13,000 ideas on toys that can be made for teaching and learning. How to, teach history through toys, how to teach science and maths through toys, etc. So we are working on this area. The other special areas for online learning would include vocational courses, which so far have not seen very huge e-content. And we are looking at the theoretical part of vocational courses being developed as e-content. We are also looking at developing, life skills such as financial literacy and digital literacy, etc., for adults, neo-literates through e-content. We are also looking at disseminating languages and the knowledge of India. And as I have mentioned, gifted children and open school and CWSM, that is children with special needs, would also figure here. We are closely looking at e-museums, virtual museums. Every child in the country may not be in a position to travel through the country to look at the diversity of culture and tradition in this country, or have a look at the National Science Museum, for instance. So we are really looking at this to bring it to every child. We are also looking at different ministries like the Jal Shakti Ministry, creating a water museum, which could itself be graded for children from classes preschool onwards to understand conservation of water, the importance of water, and etc. So these are some of the things we are doing. Since my talk was very limited to what we are doing in the NEP, I have focused around only that. There is a huge amount of body of work which is happening in the states and which is also happening in the center. There is a documentation we have done, which is called the India Digital Education Report, which is available on our website. Across the country. So with this, I thank you very much, and that would be the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anita Karwal, for this brilliant amount of information that you've shared with all of us with respect to NEP 2020. When it first came out as a news, most of us were wondering what exactly is this all about. But today your session has really enlightened us in quite a lot of detail, and that I'm sure every parent or every student who is logged in today and watching this conference will have a better clarity going forward. Thank you once again for your amazing information.